Hello crafty friends, I'm Lien from Studio Kato and I'm so happy you're joining me again today for another video. Today I am going to talk a little bit about backgrounds. I'm going to make a really subtle background, but I'm going to use 3 of my favorite techniques for backgrounds, so I figured I needed a title for this video. I also am using some products that I got from Seize the Stamp. These are Waffle Flower Craft products, and I'm starting out with this stamp set. It's got a gorgeous floral arrangement, but what I also love about the stamp set is that it has a small flower and a small leaf stamp in it, so you don't just have to use that big flower one. If your flower stamp sets have a couple of small images in there, you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck from them. Now I stamped that onto watercolor cardstock with Versafine Onyx Black, and I'm embossing it with clear gloss embossing powder for a shiny outline. But also when you're going to do watercoloring, it's going to be very helpful if your lines have been embossed. It's just beautiful to see the watercolor pool in between those lines. Now there is a drawback when you're embossing and you're coloring with these Caron brush markers. I love these markers. I really love the colors except for the browns, which you've probably heard me say before, but all of the other colors are absolutely gorgeous, super vibrant. The paints are very pigmented as well, so they're just a lot of fun to color with. But when you're coloring over embossing powder or embossed outlines, you are going to run into a problem because normal watercolor just runs off of the embossing, and the embossing resists the water, so there's no paint on the embossing powder once everything is dry. But when you're working with these markers, for some reason, they don't run off the embossed outlines, probably because you use less water with them, but I do still use water with these markers, so I'm not sure that's the reason. And they also don't dry on the embossed outlines. So the problem you're gonna run into is that you're going to have inky fingers as soon as you touch this piece. Even though everything is dry, there's going to be color on the embossed outlines, and you're going to have green smudges on your pink flowers. It happened to me, even though it happened to me with this card, even though I've run into this problem 1,000 of times before. So while I love coloring with these, you have to remember to just take a piece of kitchen towel or anything absorbent and just dab off the embossing powder without moving the towel, so you pick up all of the color that's left on there, and that's going to prevent some smudging. Now for this background, I'm also using some watercolor cardstock and some inks by Pigment Craft Co. I love their inks. I only recently started collecting them. I have just 8 ink pads, but they're so gorgeous. And I'm just smooshing them down onto a slick surface. This happens to be a laminated sheet of white cardstock, which is perfect for this because of the white. You can really see the true color of the inks you're working with. Just spritz them with water, dab in the watercolor cardstock. I heat set it in between a couple of times so you get a lot of texture, and I just did that 3 times. Now I'm also using a stencil on this once it's completely dry, and I'm using some embossing paste or texture paste from Ranger to just, it's not going to be super opaque white, but it's going to give a lot of fun texture, so it's absolutely going to be gorgeous in the end. This is a really fun technique to use texture paste through stencils on a background, and I love the watercolor look underneath. Now another fun thing to do with your backgrounds, if you don't want to spend half an hour adding embellishments like I do these days, you can just add some splatter. Now I did my layout first. I die cut out the stamped image. I put it on this background, and I thought, well, the left upper corner and the bottom right corner, they looked a little bit empty, so I wanted to add some splatter in those corners. And I did that with some acrylic paint this time. Usually when I want gold splatter, I will use some metallic watercolor paints, but I remembered I had these gold metallic acrylics lying around. And the fun thing about acrylics is that they dry dimensional. Now I also messed up on this step because I heat set this. I heat set the paint, which you're not really supposed to do. And I also used the wrong setting on my heat tool, so I left it on for way too long and I burned the cardstock. So my pretty blue background has some brown spots in it, but it kind of matches with the gold paint. So I'm not too mad about it. I was definitely not mad enough to start this whole thing over. So this is what we're ending up with. A card with scorch marks, but I doubt anyone will really know what they are or notice. I'm adding this sentiment that I prepared beforehand. I will actually try to make a video on this because it's a really helpful technique. I struggle sometimes with adding sentiments to my cards because, I mean, I never keep them in mind when thinking of the design, and I find that pre-making sentiments helps a lot. So these are from the stamp market, and I just added that on. Like I said, it's pre-made, so I just have to glue it and that's it. I'm making a matching envelope as well, and I am using that same stamp also on some watercolor cardstock, which I folded into an envelope using the We Are Memory Keepers 123 punch board. And I'm using what I thought was the same ink I used on the background. It's not, but it's from the same line, so it matches the background perfectly. It's fine. But this is Lagoon, and I think the lightest color I used on the background was LOA. Like I said, it doesn't really matter in the end because they look very similar. I am also going to add some splatter on the envelope because I just like splatter. It's really fun to spice things up and not have to add embellishments. It's also been a while since I actually made an envelope with any kind of design on it. I have been really lazy with my envelopes lately, just folding them out of colored or patterned cardstock, but I really like this as well. I love the card. I love the colors, that peachy pink with the minty green or the aqua. It's a weird blue-green shade, but I really like it. I just don't know a name for it. I hope you like it too. I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to read them. You can also subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos, and definitely follow me on Instagram because I post a card on there almost every day. It used to be every day, but I've missed a couple in between. Don't tell anyone. Yeah, so I hope to see you there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.